Just when you think you can count the Oklahoma State Cowboys out and, maybe you project them to have an okay season like I did last year, they explode. And that's just what happens with a Mike Gundy led team. This is the team that made a run to the Big 12 championship game last year and has a ton of returning production in 2024. Yet there are some concerns with this team and some issues that need to be figured out, especially with this new look Big 12 conference and the fact that it is the most unpredictable conference in the country. Can Oklahoma State win a Big 12 title this year after being this close to winning one last year? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to prediction season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams. I'm doing that this summer, which means you should watch them because it means I'm doing your favorite team. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded of your favorite team. Thank you for watching this video. It supports my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. Continue to support my channel by, of course, watching my other videos. Why wouldn't you? I'm doing every single team. But you can also like, comment, share, and do anything else you can help support the channel because it does mean a lot to me. It helps grow what I do here on YouTube, and I appreciate all of your love and support. Let's talk about Mike Gundy's Cowboys in 2024, but before we do that, you got to know how I do it. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and then at the end of it all, we will go through Oklahoma State's 2024 football schedule, give it a good old game-by-game preview and prediction. Couple footnotes before we start. Right over here are going to be the team's stats, both offensively and defensively, that they were able to put up last season. And then right below the team's logo, right down there, for your viewing pleasure, I have put the team's coaching staff, so I will waste no more time. I will begin by talking about the Oklahoma State offense in 2024. It had a ton of highlights, some lowlights in it, but mostly highlights. Some very good players come back to this team. Obviously, in order to understand what comes back, you have to understand what leaves, and we will go position by position by starting with the most important position on the field, and that is the quarterback room. Gunnar Gundy is gone. Of course, Mike Gundy's son is leaving through the transfer portal. He is probably going to go end up getting that starting job with OU. And no, I'm not talking about Oklahoma, Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. The Bobcats probably, again, Gundy may very well end up getting that starting job there, at least. That is why he transferred for the hope of doing so. So you return Alan Bowman, who had some upside and some downside last year. The upside, 3,400 passing yards, 3,460 to be exact, did have 15 touchdowns, which you want a little bit more production in the touchdown zone, 60.7% completion percentage. You'd like to see an uptick in that, and you definitely want to see him cut back on the interceptions. Had 14 of them last year and 15 touchdowns, 14 picks. That is just not very good touchdown to interception ratio. He's had those problems throughout his entire career. So if Alan Bowman can figure something out in this season for Mike Gundy and for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, this is an offense that I think can take that next step, even though they were already pretty good last season. You also do return Garrett Rangel and Zane Flores to this quarterback room as well. Obviously, Bowman is going to be the starter, but there are just a couple names in the backfield for you. Elijah Collins does leave through the NFL in the running back room, 142 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. Jaden Nixon, who was the second leading rusher, is gone through the transfer portal. But you return one of, if not the best running back in the country. I think he's the best running back in the country. He proved it last year by rushing for 1,732 yards and 21 touchdowns. It's Ollie Gordon. You're going to have a lot of other talented guys coming back here in this room, and you see their names on screen. Vailahi, Schultz, and some guys through the portal, and A.J. Green and Trent Howland. But this is the Ollie Gordon show. 155.3 rush yards per game was pretty much all done by him. He had 285 carries, averaged 6.1 yards per game, and he is going, or not yards per game, 6.1 yards per carry. He is going to be an absolute force on this offense yet again. Ollie Gordon's one of the best running backs in the country. He proved it last year, and he is going to show us why again this year. Leon Johnson's gone to the NFL through the wide receiver room, 539 yards and a touchdown for him last year. And then you do lose some other pretty talented weapons. Jaden Bray and Blaine Green are both going to be leaving through the portal. Bray was the fourth leading receiver on this team with 30 catches for 382 yards. You also do lose Josiah Johnson, a tight end, who is going to be leaving due to graduation. But your pass catching room is still pretty talented. Your top two weapons, In the wide receiver room, do come back. Brandon Presley at 991 yards, 6 touchdowns. That close to a 1,000-yard season. Definitely could reach that in 2024. Rashad Owens at 895 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was an absolute force. Oh, by the way, did I mention Brandon Presley had 101 receptions last year? Yeah, really reliable target for Alan Bowman and company. Deshaun Stribling and Talon Shetron are going to be coming back as well. You do get some players coming over through the portal to give a boost to the wide receiver room. Dwayne Lofton comes over from Virginia Tech, and Gavin Freeman comes over from the rival in Oklahoma. In the tight end room, Quentin Stewart does come back, and you get Tyler Foster coming over from the portal. I do believe, oh no, I was going to say he's a JUCO transfer. I would have lied. He's a transfer from OU. Again, not Oklahoma, in the same place Gunnar Gundy transferred to in OU in Ohio. Tyrone Weber has gone through the portal in the offensive line room, but your offensive line is pretty much set like this. Dalton Cooper, Cole Birmingham, Preston Wilson, Jake Springfield, and Joe Mikulski. That's probably going to end up being your starting five on the offensive line. Ollie Gordon is going to be sensational, and there are a ton of great pass-catching weapons in this room. To me, this offense, I still think is going to be really solid in 2024. It's going to be solid enough to win them a lot of games. It is up to Alan Bowman to take that next step. And by taking that next step, I need more touchdowns. I need less picks. I need a higher efficiency rating. He only had a 123 passer rating last season, which, considering everything, is not a bad number at all, but you'd like that number to be higher. Alan Bowman has the talent to do it. He has the weapons to do it. He needs to show us, especially in that touchdown to interception ratio, that he can take that next step. When you talk about this Oklahoma State defense, well, it had its struggles last season. It allowed 441 yards per game, 28 points per game as well. And even though Oklahoma State made a run all the way to the Big 12 championship game, the defense definitely cost them in a couple of moments down the line, and especially if the defense was anywhere near as good as some of the Mike Gundy defenses we have seen in the past under former defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. Obviously not there anymore, a big part of why that defense was so successful. Who knows? Oklahoma State probably could have given Texas a little bit of a better fight. Nonetheless, there is some still really good talent on this defense, but there are some guys leaving the defensive room as well. Anthony Goodlow and Nate Latu are going to be gone to the NFL. That is from the defensive line room. And Goodlow, obviously the better of those two, 42 tackles, 3 sacks last season. Latu, 31 tackles and 3 sacks as well from last season. Still a lot of talent in this defensive line. Colin Clay is going to be your main returning defensive lineman from last season. The nose tackle had 14 tackles, 2.5 sacks last season. You also going to have Xavier Ross, Justin Kirkland, Cody Waltersheed, hopefully I said that last name right, Deshaun Brown, and Jaleel Johnson, as well as getting a transfer coming over here to help give a boost to this defensive line room. Obi Ozigbo comes over, I believe, from a D2 program, but he should still play some solid minutes here on the defensive line for Oklahoma State. In the linebacker room, Donovan Stevens is going to be gone through the transfer portal. He is transferred over to BGSU. That's the MAC team Bowling Green. And then Xavier Benson is going to be gone through the transfer portal. Benson had 65 tackles and a sack and a half last season. But hey, you get a ton of great players back in this linebacker room, and your leading tackler last year was Nick Martin, had 140 of them. Last season, 6 sacks, a couple picks last season. Colin Oliver also comes back, 73 tackles, 5 passes defended for him. Justin Wright is a very good linebacker in his own right as well. And then Jeff Roberson gives a little bit of depth to this room. It'll be led by Martin, it'll be led by Oliver, and that is a very, very good 1-2 combination in this linebacker room for Oklahoma State, especially considering how talented of a player Nick Martin is. Your defensive back room does lose a couple really nice pieces. DJ McKinney, who had 38 tackles, 5 pass defended, is gone out of the cornerback room. Nick Session and Ladarius Webb Jr., also through the transfer portal, much like DJ McKinney, as you see on screen, will also be leaving through the transfer portal. But you know what? Still a lot of talent on the defensive back, or I should say in the defensive back room. Cam Smith and Cale Smith are back as cornerbacks, as well as Corey Black and Kenneth Harris. In the safety room, Kendall Daniels, Trey Rucker, Cameron Epps, Lyric Rawls, Ty Williams, and a transfer coming over in Kobe Hilton. He'll be coming over from UTEP, who was a very, very good defensive back in the safety position during his time with the minors. He'll come over here to give a huge boost to this defensive back room for Oklahoma State. Let me read you a couple of stats. Kendall Daniels last season, 105 tackles. You go ahead and look at Trey Rucker, 100 tackles. Yes, this is the team that had 3 triple-digit tacklers on the same defense. It is hard for me to believe, oh, by the way, kickers are people too. Let's show them some love. Alex Hale did graduate, so you are going to have a little bit of a battle with the punting duties here. Hudson Cack and Wes Fall are going to be battling it out for the punting duties, while Logan Ward does return as that kicker. Again, all those names are returners. With all of this talent coming back on the defensive side, sure, you do lose some pretty solid players, but you have a ton of returning production here and a lot of very, very talented players. A lot of guys who absolutely showed out for this team last season. Nick Martin, I'm thinking of, your other 200 total tacklers in the safety position, and Daniels and Rucker. Some of these guys on the defensive line are going to be really, really good players. It is hard for me to see this defense not get better in 2024. If it doesn't, maybe you have some questions about some staff issues. But as of right now, with the staff that they have, I just find it very hard to believe that this defense does not at least get somewhat better in 2024. You want to look for under 400 yards per game. I think, to me, that is a very, very reasonable goal with the talent level that is here. Oklahoma State, watch out, considering how mediocre this defense was last season, and in fact downright bad at times. It could surprise you in 2024. It's got a lot of good talent to be able to do so. But let's talk about the Oklahoma State schedule here in 2024. Hey, any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road will be in italics. That is that slanted text. Any game that gets highlighted in green is a game that I think Oklahoma State's going to win fairly easily. Maybe a little bit of trouble at the beginning, but they pull away at the end. Things like that. Yellow is going to be a very close game. It's going to be a battle, but I still think Oklahoma State's going to be able to win that game, while any game that gets highlighted in red is a predicted loss for the Cowboys in 2024. Even though South Dakota State is one of the better, if not, you could argue, the best team out of the FCS ranks, Oklahoma State's a top 25 team in the FBS ranks. And with all that offensive talent, I think Ollie Gordon's going to be able to have a really good day against the South Dakota State defense. The Jackrabbits put up a fight for a little bit. Maybe they even make this game to where it can be highlighted in yellow. That would not surprise me at all. Oklahoma State, I still think, is going to be able to win this game. They pull away at the end. They beat the Jackrabbits to start out 1-0. You also got to face a very interesting non-conference opponent here. Granted, you get them at home, but you got to face the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, Arkansas loses a lot of talent from last year, KJ Jefferson included. He is off to be the quarterback over with Gus Malzahn's group in the bounce house in Central Florida. Arkansas is losing a ton of other talent as well. There are a lot of questions about how Sam Pittman was able to keep his job. I just feel like that's a program in a little bit of turmoil right now, and I don't necessarily trust Arkansas to the full extent in 2024. I do, however, like Oklahoma State to get better in a lot of facets. I think Alan Bowman is going to have himself a better year in touchdown to interception ratio. That just comes with another year at starting. I think at least 20 to 25 touchdowns, and hopefully the hope is single-digit interception numbers. Arkansas just lost too much. There's in too much turmoil. They'll keep it close. Again, they're still an SEC team. They got SEC talent. They'll be competitive, but I think Oklahoma State will be able to win that game. A road game here against the Group of 5 team against the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Watch out for this one. This one could prove to be a little bit tricky, but I still got Oklahoma State being able to win this one fairly comfortably to get out to a 3-0 start in 2024. You get to face a Big 12 newcomer in your first conference game. You got to face the Utah Utes. Now, I will be honest, I am very, very high on what this Utes team has, and I think they have everything necessary to win this game. But I think Utah going on the road, it's always a very hostile environment in Stillwater. It is a very underrated place to play in terms of how tough it is to play. Oklahoma State's got some great fans. I think Utah's going to go on the road and lose this game. I'm very high on Cam Rising. I love the weapons that he has. We know the style of defense that Kyle Whittingham plays, but I think this is just one of those games where the fans in Stillwater make a lot of difference. Oklahoma State plays well. I think the defense will come up with a couple of key turnovers, and Oklahoma State will beat the Utah Utes in a very, very, very close game. But I got the Cowboys starting out here 4-0, and they get a signature win early in the season. However, it is immediately going to be overshadowed by their first loss of the season. This is a predicted loss to the Kansas State Wildcats. This team has some pretty good talent returning defensively. There are some guys that leave through the transfer portal that, again, Kansas State's definitely going to end up feeling that hit. Some really good talent coming back offensively, including quarterback Avery Johnson, who, again, much like some of the other younger quarterbacks, such as Jackson Arnold and Nico Iamaleava, that we're going to see starting for programs in 2024. I really like what Avery Howard has in terms of his, what am I trying to look for? His skill set, I think, is very, very good. I think it's very conducive to having a very good season. And again, Oklahoma State coming off the high after that win, they go on the road and lose a tough one to Kansas State. I think they come back home, though, and beat West Virginia, not without their struggles. Watch out for the Mountaineers this year. Neil Brown's got a good team returning. Garrett Green had a great season last year. He should have another good season in Morgantown in 2024. Again, I just think the road environment a little bit too tough for West Virginia, and Oklahoma State does end up winning that game. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 games on the schedule where Oklahoma is going to be favored, maybe by a touchdown, maybe more, and then they end up dropping. Now, I know this one comes after a bye week, and Oklahoma State has the extra week of preparation here, so maybe the more likely loss is that second game on the road to Baylor, which kind of spoils my prediction for both of these games here. I think you go on the road and lose to the BYU. Again, one of the case, as there are many times in college football, Oklahoma State has the more talented roster, but I think the defense, while it will improve, I think is going to cost them a game or 2 on the schedule. I think this is one of them. Provo is a tough place to play. BYU's got some really good offensive players. I think they'll be able to take advantage while the Cougars pull off an upset, which means Oklahoma State goes on the road and loses a close one to Baylor. Now, I fully understand the more likely scenario is probably they go on the road, win a close one in Provo, and then get upset on the road against Baylor. However, I do like BYU's team a little bit more than what the Baylor Bears have. 2 very, very good coaches that end up coaching with both programs. I just like what BYU has a little bit more than what Dave Aranda's group possesses in Waco. So that's why I got BYU winning that game. But regardless, I think they split that 2-game road trip to earn their second loss. But at this point in the season, they are 6-2. They'll get an easy win at home against Arizona State. While Kenny Dillingham's Sun Devils will improve, they will not take a big enough step to be able to make it any sort of a relatively respectful game against Oklahoma State. Maybe they will at times, but the scoreboard at the end of the game is not going to reflect that Oklahoma State will win that one. And then I got them losing this one on the road to TCU as well. The Horned Frogs still got some good talent. There are some interesting pieces offensively and defensively. And again, you could just chalk this one up to a pure upset. You could chalk this one up to the chaos of the Big 12 Conference. I see a third loss for Oklahoma State somewhere. And with their 3 remaining games on schedule, I do have that being the loss, which obviously spoils the rest of my picks here. Texas Tech does have some pretty good talent on it, and I do think they give Oklahoma State a fight, but I think the Cowboys are going to be able to prevail in that one. And then you get to the end of the season against the Colorado Buffaloes. Absolutely a game I could see Oklahoma losing. Colorado is one of the more tricky teams to predict in the nation. Yes, they have Shedeur Sanders. Yes, they have Travis Hunter. They added some pretty solid pieces through the transfer portal and basically retooled that roster for the second straight year. But again, I just don't think building a roster through the transfer portal is conducive to a winning program year after year. While I think the Buffaloes improve in 2024, I don't think it's enough to beat a team that I feel is going to be really talented in the Oklahoma State Cowboys, which leads me to a 9-3 record. This is a very, very manageable schedule. Could they go on the road and win at BYU? Absolutely. They're more talented. Could they go on the road and win at TCU? Absolutely. They, again, are more talented. There are just too many interesting games here for me to see an undefeated season, but a very good season. The trip to the Big 12 title game is absolutely on the table. Depends on how much that defense improves from a year ago, and it depends on how much Alan Bowman grows at the quarterback position. But they got a lot of stars, a lot of good players. I see 9-3. Let me know what you see in the comment section down below. Hey, coming up next is going to be the NC State Wolfpack. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next prediction video. Goodbye.